Guys, welcome back. So today I am going to create another video which is in continuation of my previous video. So in my previous video on IoT Hub, I explained you all how to create an IoT Hub and how to have the devices added in the IoT Hub and how to send messages from device to cloud and cloud to device, and how we can use that IoT Hub to monitor the devices. But that time our example was restricted to just one device. So if you remember, the example that I shared with you was it was television service provider who has the sensor installed in it, and it is sending the channels that are selected continuously to the IoT hub, and the IoT hub is sending the desired property, whether the channel has to be switched on and off depending upon the plan that is present for the particular device. So you can view my previous video, my first video on IoT hub. It is explaining all the things in detail to you. That time our example was restricted to just one device. In this example we are going to think about the millions of devices that are present around the world, and we want all those devices to be managed by the IoT hub. Now when we are talking about the millions of devices, we cannot go and add them manually in the IoT hub and have the device twins for all those devices created manually. It will take a lot of time and it will be an overhead, and there is no point doing all the things manually. So here we have a device provisioning service. This device provisioning service is basically another service present in the Azure portal, which I'll be showing you just in a moment. But I would like to first emphasize on its usage. So it is basically automating the device provisioning thing. Provisioning, you can understand it like adding the device into the IoT hub. So this is basically automating the entire process, and trust me, it is a boon for the devices which are going to use the sensors in them. So basically this graph is going to give you a bit of clarity on auto provisioning sequence, exactly what is happening. So first of all, I'll explain it to you all theoretically, and then we will be moving on to Azure portal and creating a device provisioning service and all those things. So first of all, here we can see we have a manufacturer. As you can see here, manufacturer, as you can see here, is basically the company who manufactures the device, and at that time it creates a device ID, and that device ID is forwarded to the operator is basically registering that device, configuring that device with the DPS, and in the DPS we have our IoT hubs registered. So when we are configuring the device with the DPS, we have a code written by the developer that is deployed to the device, which decides what pathway the DPS, or what code the DPS should follow to register the device to the IoT hub, if there is any. And then that code is followed and the device is registered on the IoT hub, on the IoT on the basis of code. The basically the task of DPS is to authenticate the device and return the correct IoT hub. Like DPS can have multiple IoT hubs in it, which we are going to see in a moment, and DPS can return the correct IoT hub after authenticating the device based on the ID, and in that IoT hub the device gets registered, and finally we are able to send messages to that IoT hub. So this is basically the entire flow. I hope you understood a bit of this through this diagram. Otherwise we are going to switch on to the demo just in a moment, but I hope it was not on the fly. So basically this is our resource group, and in our resource group we can see we have two IoT hubs, and we are going to have our devices registered into these two IoT hubs. So let's create a device provisioning service here. IoT hub device provisioning service. Yes, this is the one we are going to create, and we have, let's name it IoT hub DPS demo. Let's deploy it in the demo. Let's use my favorite name. In net and networking we are going to make it public access. It will be a standard tier. We will be deleting it. We can add tags if we want. finally we are going to create. So finally we have it created. Let's go to the resource, and this is our DPS, this is our global device endpoint, and this is the ID scope. This is provided with all the with the DPS that we have created. So we have a quick start. Here we have the steps that we have to follow. So let's try to do some activities here. First of all, we are going to link the IoT hubs that we have that we want our DPS to be created. So basically we have all the IoT hubs added to the DPS, so that DPS can identify to which IoT hub the device has to be created. So let's add it. Right now I'll be giving it the owner access, owner policy. You can create the policy in the IoT hub and get it added here. So for simplifying, I have added the IoT hub owner access as of now. Okay, I'll be adding another IoT hub here. Right now I have added IoT hub demo 2. I'll be adding IoT hub, another IoT hub, same with owner access. So these two IoT hub I have added, and I'll be creating the devices through the program using these two IoT hubs. Next, if we can see, we can add some certificates if we want. Right now we are not going into that part. We have to manage the enrollments, and manage enrollment. Basically we have to add an enrollment group. Basically enrollment group is nothing but it is a kind of template that your device is going to follow. Like for example, we are having a service provider device, so we can add some basic template of that device, all those devices here, so that we don't need to add the configurations to the individual devices. And if there is any device that is not following this enrollment group, then we can add individual enrollment as well. So right now I'm going to add an enrollment group. Let's name it Airtel group, or maybe device group basic means the devices that have basic plans. There are two allocation types. Allocation type will be covering in the next video if I get a good support. Right now I am giving it a symmetric key where my keys are auto generated. This is not an edge device. Edge will be my next topic that I'll be covering if I get a good response here. This is important, how we can select the we want the devices assigned to the IoT hub. So I would like to spend some moment here. We have 4 options here. Lowest latency, number one option means the DPS will be picking up that IoT hub which is going to have the lowest latency, that is lowest response time. That will be the first option. Evenly weight distributed option means our devices will be added as per the equality, like overall we will have equal devices distributed to both the IoT hub, almost equal. Like for example, if we have 50 set of devices for 2 IoT hubs, then these devices will be having 25 devices allocated to each, and this will be managed by the DPS itself. Next is the static configuration, where we define the IoT hub from the list here itself, like which IoT hub to which IoT hub the device has to be created. And finally we have custom allocation. In custom allocation we have the Azure. We have to create an Azure function, and in that Azure function we have to define the basis on the basis of which the device has to be created to the IoT hub. So I'll be focusing on evenly weighted, distributed, and custom, and remaining will be same, almost same. So I would not like to extend the video by explaining all the four options using coding. So right now I am selecting the evenly weighted distribution, and evenly weighted distribution will be adding my two IoT hubs, will be adding devices to my two IoT hubs. Right now all both the devices are selected. I'm adding tags here. In tags we can say plan basic, and in desired property my initial setup will be channel status, or I'll be switching it to on because I am considering this as a basic plan. So basically these devices will be having a basic plan. This is the tag, and the desired channel property would be switched on. I think I'm done. Let's save the enrollment group. Okay, so I have this enrollment group added, and if I click on this, I have the primary key and secondary key defined, and the details that I have entered there. Okay, so now basically what will happen is that in my code I'll be entering these details of my device. Okay, let's go to this. Now what will be happening is that I'll be adding these primary and secondary keys there in my code, and I'll be adding the device provisioning service scope and ID which has been provided to me, and we will have our devices created within this enrollment group. So let's switch back to Visual Studio, and let me start working on my project, my code. So here if you can see, we have the device endpoint. So let me add that endpoint here. This is my device endpoint. Next is ID scope. This is the ID scope. Let's add the primary and secondary key for the enrollment that we have created. Sorry. So here we start. If we see what is happening in the register device, we have the count will be entering. Right now we have the device 10 devices to be entered, so we'll be entering 10 devices here, and these 10 devices will have device usage. If so right now the code that we have entered here is that that we have entered here basically selects any one of these three service providers and create a device for that. We can add any kind of logic here, or basically this is the kind of simulator. So we are simulating the IDs of the device, but actually when we go to the device provisioning thing, then this ID is supplied to us by the manufacturer. Right now we have the simulated system, so that's why we are creating the IDs of the devices randomly here. So if you can see the logic here, then we are selecting any one of these randomly, for the 10 devices these IDs randomly, and then these devices will be registered. In the register device, what is happening is that we the basic thing that we are supposed to understand here is that we have the enrollment group primary key and secondary key that I have just copied for the enrollment groups, and device registration IDs. So there will be a hash computed for this device registration ID with the primary key and the secondary key, and that will be working as a primary key and secondary key to register the device within the enrollment group, that is device provisioning service. And finally the devices will be registered. Since right now we have evenly weighted distributed allocation policy selected, so it will simply distribute the devices evenly to both the IoT hubs, and finally after provisioning, the IoT hubs details will be returned. And here we can see that in the device registration result, we have assigned hub as a property which can mention the IoT hub name or in which the device has been registered. So I think enough of code explanation. Let's run it. Again, I would like to highlight here that please don't worry about the code. I will have the code link present in my description box. So this code is very generically available, so you can find it anywhere. My point is to make you guys understand how device allocation policy actually work. Okay, now we have our devices added, so let's exit the code and let's switch over to the Visual Studio, and this is the enrollment group, I think, that which is used. So let's see if our devices are registered using this enrollment group. Registration records, yes, we have devices added. Now let's switch to the IoT hubs actually and see if the devices can be seen there. Resource group, IoT hub demo. So we have IoT hub 2 devices. Yes, we have Airtel, Dish, Tata, Airtel, Dish devices added here, and I think same way we are going to have devices added in another IoT hub as well. These are all devices with the basic plans. I'll be showing you the device twin in a moment. Tata, Dish, Dish, Tata, Dish. Okay, so if we see the device twin here, so you can see we have the plan defined basic, which we defined in the demo, and the channel status is on, which is the initial state for the desired property that we have defined. Okay, so the only problem that I see right now here is that in the device twin, in the devices actually we have the devices randomly distributed. Like what I want is that Tata devices should be present in one IoT hub and Airtel devices should be present in another IoT hub. So that we can do, but that we can do using custom allocation policies. So let's see that as well. It will be a very short thing because I have the code ready with me, and as this basically requires a new Azure function to be created. So we have an Azure function with us. This Azure function is registered with the device provisioning service, and here I can quickly explain what this function is doing. This is an HTTP triggered function first of all, and this function is just reading the device runtime context, and finally it is getting the registration ID of the device. The registration ID of the device is actually the ID which I can show you what is the registration ID. The registration ID of the device is actually this ID. So this registration ID, it is reading device registration ID. If device registration ID is null, that means it's not found, and it is taking the IoT hubs linked. So let's see if the device registration ID starts with, I think we should update this, Tata. Then it should host it to Tata, and in twin tags what we are going to do is we are going to add service provider data, and in twin properties we'll be adding plan is already added, I guess. Channel 0 as the initial channel, and same way, oh, it's not Tava, it's Tata. And same way, if we have Airtel added, service provider will be Airtel, channel will be 0, and channel will be 1000, channel will be 1111. Yes, this is the default things that we have. And finally we will have our initial twin returned and the channel will be set up. Let's deploy this function. First of all, I am going to use a very layman publish method to do the device to publish this Azure function. Otherwise we should have a proper Azure DevOps thing to deploy it, but right now my focus is not that. I'll be creating another video on Azure function deployment and all that after some time, but right now my focus is the IoT hub. So I've selected my resource group. Plan is consumption. I'll be selecting East US, which is this. Storage, yes, this will be a new storage that is created and I'm creating it. So finally we have our device provisioning a function deployed, and here I'm clicking next, finish. Okay, so finally we have our Azure function published. Now let's switch back to portal. Let's go to our device provisioning service, and in manage allocation policy we are going to select, not here, in manage enrollments, this is our enrollment group. And here we are going to select the Azure function, and here we have our function selected, and we are going to select HTTP triggered function that we have created, and this is our basic twin tag, and finally we are going to save the function. Okay, let's switch back to our project, and this time we are going to create 50 devices, and there will be only Tata, Sky and Airtel devices, and we're going to yes, device usage, we're going to remove this dash thing. Let's see our Azure function, what we have there. We have Tata and Airtel. Okay, so we are going to have these two devices only, Tata and Airtel, and we are going to have 50 devices created. And so finally we have our function executed, and let's switch back to Azure portal. Let's switch back to IoT hub. So in this IoT hub we have all the Tata devices, and if we switch back to another IoT hub, so this has all the Airtel devices. So guys, that's all for the demo today. I hope you like this video, and I hope you will continue to like, share and subscribe the channel, and I'll keep focusing more videos on the IoT hub. The next video will be, I think, on Azure IoT Edge, or let me see what else should I cover next. Till the time, please stay tuned and keep learning. Thank you.